Hey you guys, welcome. Wait. Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. Very exciting video for you guys today. We are going to be going over my entire eyeshadow palette collection and doing a mini declutter while we are at it. If you watched my palette ranking video of all the palettes from 2020, you'll know that I went a little crazy this last year. I have way too many eyeshadow palettes and I definitely need to force myself to at least get rid of a few of them. Now I didn't have a specific number in mind. The idea of this is not necessarily to do any sort of mass purge, so if you have high expectations when it comes to declutters, I'm warning you now, you might be a little disappointed, but I was actually surprised with how many I ended up getting rid of. But we have a lot of palettes to get into, so we better jump into it quickly before we do. A special welcome to any new visitors to my channel. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you do, I hope that you will consider subscribing before you leave. And now let's go ahead and jump right in. Okay, you guys, so this is the area where all my eyeshadow palettes are. I have all my bigger palettes down here at the bottom. As you can see, they're very disorganized. I actually had them all in order, but Charlie came in and was looking at things this morning, so it's a bit of a mess, so good time to do this. These are just some random ones. These are, for the most part, my smaller palettes are the ones that just won't fit down here right now because I just don't have any room. So I have a couple of my Lorac shadows are down there and then some other ones over there. So I'm gonna put these all in a bin, take them upstairs to better lighting, and we will try and declutter a few of these. All right, so here is everything. I have a bin here, a bin here. These are mostly, well, other than a few I just threw in here, these are most of my smaller palettes and then just some other random ones here. So let's jump right in. Where to begin? Why don't we start with all my Colourpop palettes? So I think these are all of my Colourpop palettes, big and small. Let's start with a couple newer ones to me. So these ones I got at the very end of December. I actually just got these in the mail about a week ago. This one is new from them, their Wine and Only palette. Really pretty. I actually haven't even really dipped into this one yet, so I'm keeping this one. This one is also really pretty. I have used this one a couple of times. I'm actually wearing it today. I also picked up these two Disney palettes. I just have a feeling these are probably going to be discontinued. I don't know if soon, but they've been around for a while, so I wanted to pick them up before they are gone. Charlie has had fun looking at these ones with me. They are really pretty. This one right here. Let me know which of these you guys would like to see in a video. And then I got this right here. This is actually a loose palette from them that I just put some of their singles in that I picked up. I picked up like 4 more singles when I ordered these in their last sale and just put everything inside here. It was super cheap. I think I got this for like $5. Also going to be keeping my So Jaded palette, one of my favorites from them. And fair warning, my Colourpop palettes are some of my favorites, so I likely will not declutter a lot of these. I keep the Sweet Talk palette. I have yet to do a comparison of the Sweet Talk and the Coast to Coral palette, but I want to show you guys how many similarities I feel are in these palettes. I don't know. I mean, there are a couple differences, but I feel like you would not need both of these palettes. So that is something I would like to get around to doing, is an actual comparison on these two. If you're into corals though, I think these are both really gorgeous. I am most definitely keeping my That's Taupe palette. This is probably one of my very favorite palettes from Colourpop. If you wanted to try the Natasha Denona Glam palette, but it was out of your price range, I mentioned this a few times, but this is a great alternative. The Night Owl palette, this one's been discontinued, but I am very fond of this palette. I love the warm kind of pinky browns in here, and also the packaging is so adorable. I think it's kind of sad they discontinued this one. The Star Wars palette, definitely keeping this one as well. Love this little palette. Making Mobs I'm gonna be keeping. I'm sorry guys, I promise there will be a couple that I declutter. The Garden Variety, I kind of gave this a harsh criticism. I feel like this is one that I can see myself decluttering in the future, but it is still kind of new to me. I want to try and give it a second chance, so I'm going to keep this around for a while, but if my mind doesn't change on this very soon, I think this is one that might be at jeopardy in the future, which is unfortunate because the packaging of this one is adorable. Love the Mulan palette, definitely going to keep that one. Love the Boudoir Noir palette, another great one from them. Really enjoying this palette from Raw Beauty Christie. This is one that I do want to pull into a video soon. Gotta keep the Dream Street original palette. So sad that they got rid of this thing because I still think this is one of their best ones, and it has sentimental value. It was one of my first Colourpop palettes, and I also love the Through My Eyes palette, one of my favorites from them. Okay, so here's where it gets, here's my maybes. Definitely gonna pass along the You Are a Cutie palette. This one's actually already been discontinued, even though it was never that old. Didn't love it as much as I kind of hoped I would. So gonna pass that one along. I really love this palette. It is discontinued as well. It's the You Had Me at Hello palette. I think it's one of their great palettes. I feel like I should pass it along though because I just have more than I need. But I'm gonna keep the Double Entendre palette. I think this is another unfortunate one that they discontinued because I think it's one of their best. Really good brown palette. I think it's My Pleasure. This is a really pretty one. I just don't use it very often. Oh, this is tough. I told myself I would declutter at least 3. I also really love this palette, but it is older, it's discontinued, and I know I have these shades in other places, so I'm gonna pass this one along. So I'm gonna try and pick just one of these. I'm gonna pass along the It's My Pleasure palette. It's just not one of my favorites, and I'm gonna keep this one for now. I probably will get rid of this one in the future because I have so many palettes, as much as I love this one, I just know I still probably will not use it, but for now, I'm gonna hold on to it. So got rid of 3 Colourpop ones. I know that was pathetic. Hopefully some other brands will have more success. While we're on a brand that I know I'm not gonna be decluttering much from, let's just jump right over to Juvia's place. I'm just gonna tell you guys right now, I'm not gonna declutter any of these. The only one that would be possibly on the chopping block is the Wahala palette, but I do wanna keep this around a little longer. I don't feel like I've used this one as much as I feel like I should give it a chance, especially because it's a newer palette. I know a lot of people love it. There are shades in here I really love. I don't know, I'm gonna give myself a little more time with this palette, but this one might be a future candidate for a declutter. But let me just show you guys all the other Juvia's Place ones I have. The Deuce palette, one of their best. Oh, love this palette. The Saharan 2 palette, another beautiful one. If you're into kind of burgundies and golds and teals, so, so pretty. Nubian 2, you guys might know, is one of my very, very favorites. The Warrior 2 palette, a great neutral matte palette. The Tri palette, another one of my favorites that sadly has been discontinued. Really fun. Saharan palette, this is another good one. The Coral palette, another fantastic one. Oh, guys, these are so pretty. I love the Juvia's Place palettes. The Nomad, you guys might know, is my #1 palette from them. Absolutely love this one. And then lastly, the Magic Mini. So I actually didn't buy a lot of palettes from Juvia's Place this year. Considering my love for Juvia's Place, not a lot of the releases from them this year really excited me very much. So we'll see what this next year holds. They are still one of my very favorite brands, especially their older palettes. So those are sticking around. But let's jump over to a brand that I know I can probably get rid of a few. Okay, this is the brand C Color Cosmetics. I like C Color Cosmetics. I think if you're on a strict, severe budget and you need to find ways to save money, I think they have really good quality shadows for the price. I don't love their packaging, and I have other dupe palettes that I do think are a little bit better. The Golden palette, I have another dupe palette that I like better than this one. I do think it's good, but I just know I'm not going to use it, so I'm going to pass this one along. The Savannah palette, I'm also going to pass along. This is a great dupe or alternative for the original Natasha Denona Safari, which I do own, so I don't feel the need to own both of them, but I do still recommend this palette, but I just don't need it. So I'm going to pass that one along to someone else. Definitely keeping the Unisex 3. This is, in my opinion, from the 4 palettes of theirs that I tried, the very best one from them. I really do love this palette. And lastly, I think I'm also going to pass along the Unisex 4. This is a really good palette. I'm tempted to keep this one because it has more neutrals than the Unisex 3, but I have a hard time even using this palette, and I love it. Someone will really enjoy this palette. It's a great, great palette that I just don't get enough use out of, so I'm going to pass that one along too. All right, here's another palette that I think I'm going to go ahead and pass along. It's a really good one. This is from Violet Voss. It's their HG, I think that's what it's called, the Holy Grail palette. It's really, really pretty if you like pink toned neutrals. This has made it through a couple of declutters, and I have still had a hard time forcing myself to use this palette. I think it's just because I have similar colors sprinkled throughout my collection all over, so I just don't need this palette, and I'm sure that someone else would love this one because it is a really good quality formula and really good color story. So I'm going to pass that one along. Next I have my Folklore palettes. These are pretty good. Again, I was more excited about these when I first tried them before I had tried out a lot of other affordable or kind of dupe or affordable brands. I don't think they're bad. I just have so many palettes that they just aren't gonna quite make the cut. So I'm gonna get rid of most of them. This one right here, really pretty if you're into warm shades. I actually thought the performance of this one was pretty good. I just don't like their shimmer formula very much. I think it's kind of weak. It's not bad, it's just kind of weak, and I like something very impactful. So I'm gonna pass this one along. Also gonna pass along the Tropical Vacation palette. This is a really pretty one. I haven't even taken the little sticker off. I'll give someone else the satisfaction of doing that for me, I guess. But this is a really pretty soft kind of pink neutral palette. I am sure someone will really love this one. Same goes for the Twilight palette. I really like the color setup of this one. I feel like you get a good range inside here, but yeah, I just know this is not going to compare to all the other ones that I have coming, so I'm going to pass that one along as well. Sweet as Honey palette. These last two are probably my two favorites. But I still just feel like I don't need this, so I'm gonna pass this one along as well. This one, the Impressionism palette, I really like this palette. I don't feel like I need it because it's not necessarily a dupe for the Safari palette by Natasha Denona, but it definitely mimics that one, and it actually has 3 more shades than that one has, and it is a little bit different. So, and because it is all matte, and I do like their matte formula, I think I am gonna keep this one. I also really like the packaging. I think it's really cute. Let's go through a couple from BH Cosmetics. I'm just gonna tell you guys right now, I think I'm gonna be keeping all these. I really, really love my BH Cosmetics palettes. Another one of my favorite affordable, not just formulas, but just across the board, their palettes in general. Their packaging's pretty good, and just for the price, you get fantastic quality. This is the Love in London, and a lot of people love this palette. I love it myself. Really great palette. I'm gonna keep that one. I really love my Zodiac palettes. I feel like these are kind of underrated. I think they're super fun. They're huge, but they're really fun. I think the shimmer formula is really great and very unique. This is the Zodiac Love Science palette, another great one. Let me just compare, I'll show you guys these two side by side. Well, I may have done this before, but this one was actually a gift from a subscriber of mine. This one I purchased on my own. They're slightly different. This one's leans a little bit more warm and kind of orangey or gold, whereas this one leans a little bit more on the purple, kind of blue, silvery, cool tones. But I love them both, and I am definitely keeping them both. You guys probably know if you've been watching my videos for the last couple months how much I love the Naughty palette. I think this is amazing. Last time I looked on their website, it was on sale for 50% off. So if you can get this thing for $14, that is a steal. I highly recommend it. It's fantastic. And this one I think may have been discontinued. A couple months ago I checked and you could still find it, I think, on Kohl's website, but it's been a while since I've checked. I think this is a great neutral palette. I love the highlighters inside here as well. Honestly, if it wasn't for these highlighters, I probably would pass this one along. I don't think I would need it, but I actually do reach for these highlighters. Also gonna keep the Tarte Beauty palette. I really love this one. Sad that Tate's not around YouTube anymore, but man, she did a good job with this palette, even though I had a couple of criticisms with it. The formula is really, really great. And you guys, I have to say, I'm coming around to pressed glitters. I'm kind of warming up to them. As much as I criticized this for having so many of them, I actually dip into these more than I used to. So I'll just say that. Oh man, guys, this is tough. So these are 2 palettes from e.l.f. I'm definitely keeping the Retro Paradise. I love this palette. I think it's super fun. Great summer palette. Or if you're into colors. If you are not into color, if you are much more like a soft color and neutrals kind of girl, I think you probably would like this one better. I think this is a great palette. I still feel like I have not used this enough. I think I said that in my last declutter and challenged myself to use it more, and I still haven't. I'm gonna try one more time. So this is one that I think in the future, even though I think it's great, I just think I have too many neutral palettes. For now, I'm gonna keep it, but that's definitely a future contender for me to pass along. Let's jump over to my Profusion palettes. So I think I'm gonna pass along the Sienna's palette. I think this is amazing. I love their eyeshadows. I think they're great. Their shimmer formula, I would say, is a little on the weak side. It's not super impactful, but it's not bad. And for the price, I think they're really nice. So I'm gonna pass this one along. And for now, I'm gonna keep the Sun-Kissed one. I'm gonna be keeping my Urban Decay Born to Run palette. Sadly, I feel like this palette, which was crowned a couple years ago as my absolute #1 palette of all time, I still like it, but I have not used this thing very much this year, you guys. It is a good palette, and it's also one I know a lot of you guys have, so it is one that I like to pull in for like shop my stashes and stuff. This little thing right here, this is the Flower Beauty Jungle Lights palette. I love this. If you have been wanting to try the Hourglass Scattered Light potted eyeshadows, these are just as good, if not better, and for a fraction of the price. I recommended this often. I'll continue to recommend it. I think it is fantastic if you like really reflective shimmers. I think you would love that. Let's jump over to this right here. It's my Ulta Beauty and Gryffindor palette. I'm keeping this palette simply for the fact that it's Harry Potter themed. That's really like the biggest reason that I'm keeping it. It is a good palette. I don't think it's bad, by any means, but I know I have these colors in other places, but because it's Harry Potter themed, I've got to keep it. Let's pull in my two Too Faced palettes. I have the original chocolate bar palette. This thing's pretty old, you guys. I think a cautious or super sanitary person would probably throw this out. I, however, am not one of those people. I am much more attached to my eyeshadows, even the ones that may be expired. So I'm gonna keep this one for now. Probably won't use it a whole lot, but it is another one that I kind of feel attached to. Also gonna keep my pumpkin spice palette. I do really like this palette. It's growing on me more and more. I've talked about this a lot. I wish it smelled a little stronger. Like my chocolate bar palette still smells a lot stronger when I use this when I do this one. I don't know, that's kind of a minor detail to some people. I seem to make a big deal out of it. Let's go into my alter ego palette. So I have all of the alter ego palettes right here. I think this is all that they have right now. And I'm keeping all of them. I love them. This is my very favorite dupe brand. Their formulas are amazing. Their packaging is far superior to honestly even some of my high-end palettes. Feel these compared to like a Colourpop palette, it weighs twice the amount. I think it's partly because it has a really good quality mirror inside. It's just really nice feeling. They're very, very pretty, and their formulas are fantastic. So I am keeping all of these. We have the Goddess palette. There it is right there. By the way, this one is meant to dupe the Natasha Denona Gold palette. The Sahara palette, which is one of my favorites, is meant to dupe the Natasha Denona Biba palette. So good. The Aurora palette is meant to dupe the Sunrise palette, which I do own and I love and use often. So I have a feeling I'm not going to get as much use out of this one. I'm going to keep it for now. I haven't actually done a lot of side-by-side comparisons of the two, which maybe I should do before this summer, because I know the Sunrise palette is one of my like top summer recommendations. So maybe I will work on that and then maybe next time. And then the Artemis palette, another one of my favorites from them. Really a beautiful warm tone palette. If you like warms, like orangey golds and greens, I think you will love this palette. Really beautiful. Okay, guys, here are all my Natasha Denona palettes. I am going to be keeping all of them, even the Love palette, which it's not my favorite palette from them, but there are some shades in here that are exceptional, so I'm going to keep this whole palette. Love the Sunrise palette. Gotten a lot of use out of this palette, you guys. It is so messy. Oh, I love it though. The Glam palette, another one of my very, very favorites. This was, no, it was my number 2 palette from this last year. Oh, so good. If you like neutrals and cool tones, you will love this thing. I think it's amazing. Love the bronze palette. There's some things, I wish there was lighter shades in here, but there are some really gorgeous shades inside this palette, and I do get some use out of it still. And the Safari palette, one of my favorites from her as well. Okay, let's jump into some that I know I'm gonna get rid of. So this right here, I think I might have decluttered this in my last declutter, and somehow it made it back into my collection. My declutter bin was actually sitting right next to my eyeshadow collection for a while, and Charlie is often kind of fiddling around with things. If this was decluttered before, I'm sorry, but if it wasn't, it is time to declutter this thing. Really nice little palette, but it's discontinued, it's old. My Tarte lip palettes. I don't know. I think I'm still gonna keep the In Bloom palette. I think it is time to declutter the Tarte lip palette. This one from Tarte, this is the Rainforest of the Sea, what is it called, Volume 3 palette. I got this in a BoxyCharm. It's all shimmers. It is really pretty, but I just don't use it, and I have a feeling someone would really enjoy this one, so I'm gonna pass that along as well. All right, here we have some smaller palettes. These are some super affordable palettes. I've got my Wet n Wild, some e.l.f., and some Makeup Revolution. So I definitely wanna get rid of one of these Makeup Revolution palettes. I'm gonna get rid of the Soph X palette. I don't even know if this is available anymore. I used this like twice for some reason, and it's kind of like broken in a few places. I think I am gonna keep this one right here. I love the mattes inside here. I love the colors of these mattes. They're very fun for fall. I think it's a good affordable option if you're looking for a fall toned palette. Okay, from Wet n Wild, the original Walking on Eggshells palette. Look at this thing, you guys. This thing is old, and I have repurchased this specific palette before they changed the packaging probably 7 times, and that was before I like started this madness down here. This one can probably be thrown away. I'm gonna get rid of both of my e.l.f. I think what they're 10 pen palettes. I've had these ones for probably like 5 years, maybe not, maybe 4 or 5 years now. This is the Summer Breeze one. Yeah, they are really good. If you like matte palettes, I think these are really nice, but I just don't use them. I am gonna keep most of these, the mini palettes. I'm just gonna get rid of this one right here. This is the one in Carnival Candy. I am going to keep these 2 Wet n Wild palettes. I don't use them a lot, but I like having them because I still think if you're okay with bad drugstore packaging, the quality of these eyeshadows, I still think are some of the best at the physical drugstore. I have the shades Nude Awakening, really good, pretty neutrals. And then this one right here is Rosé in the Air. You guys remember this? The original Comfort Zone palette when it looked like this? Well, there's a piece of YouTube history for you guys right there, let me tell you. I remember those days. Kind of makes me sad. Maybe I'll bury it in my backyard or have some sort of like ceremony for this thing. I'm kidding, but yeah, time to toss this thing. All right, I have one palette from Morphe. This is the 350 palette. This is not an eyeshadow palette to me. This is my touch up my hair palette, which I basically use just like the dark brown shades when I need to touch up little areas in my hair if I haven't had a chance to color it recently. So this sits on my desk. I get a lot of use out of it, but just not for my eyes, but I'm keeping it because I use it on my gray hair all the time. I forgot I do actually have another palette from Morphe. I'm so conflicted what to do with this one. Look how brand new this looks. I bought this with the intention of doing a 7 looks video. I even asked you guys and a lot of you expressed interest in me doing one with this. I'm so conflicted because I know a lot of you it would probably be helpful for you, but here's the reason I'm kind of struggling with the whole 7 looks video thing because I feel like I've done enough of them that I feel like people are kind of tired of seeing them as a whole. And I say that carefully because I know there are a lot of you that really, really love those videos. And I'm not making any sort of statement that I'm never going to do them again. I just have found the last couple that I've done, I know it's been a while since I've done one, they haven't done very well as far as like views. They don't do very well for me on YouTube, and I know that's not the most important thing in the world, but it is important, especially because these videos take me literally 14 times more work than any other video that I do. And so mulling over ways to like reinvent the 7 looks video on my channel, I just haven't figured out how to do it. And another reason I have not yet done the video on this, I'm sorry, I'm rambling about this palette, is that they actually changed the formula shortly after I bought this specific palette. It makes me very hesitant to use it for you guys or to do a 7 looks video because the one that you would be purchasing if you didn't have this and were to go out and buy it would be different than the one that I have. I guess I would just say if you have feedback for me, if you really want to see that, maybe I'll do another poll on my Instagram, which I know I haven't even been on Instagram for like 2 months, but that's one of my goals this year. Here we are, what, the 13th today, and I have yet to post on Instagram, even though one of my goals was to be a little more active on Instagram, but nothing wrong with starting your New Year's resolution in February, right? So let me know down below. I'll see what happens. For now, I'm gonna keep it, but I just feel like, I don't know, there's a part of me that kind of wants to declutter this thing, even though I know it's probably really good, but I haven't used it and I've had it for over a year now. Okay, we need to get a move on, guys. I'm rambling too much. I'm keeping the Urban Decay Original Makeup Palette for sentimental reasons. It is old, I don't really use it. I think I'm gonna get rid of this one right here. This is from the brand Ace Beauté. This is a really pretty palette that has a really good formula. I was super impressed with this formula. It is a couple years old. I got this in a BoxyCharm, but I'm gonna go ahead and pass this one along. I just don't intend to use this in the near future, but I do think it's a good brand and one that I would be interested in maybe following to see what else they have. I'm gonna keep this one from Lawless, the baby one. I like it, and I actually have used it again a couple more times even since that video, and I like it even a little bit more. It's just, I don't know. I know I have these shades in other places. Like this actually reminds me a lot of the You Had Me at Hello palette. Like I bet there's a lot of overlap in those two palettes right there, but for now I am gonna keep it. Keeping all of my Natasha Denona mini palettes. They're some of the favorite things that I own. So I have the mini nude, the mini Zendo, and the mini retro. This is my #1 pick. But I almost equally love these two as well. I love these. I would actually love to pick up a couple more of these this year because I just think they're really, really great. This Persona palette, this is really good. This is the Copper Theory palette. They sent me this last year, about a year ago, which was super exciting to me. That was like one of the first PRs. Actually, it was the first and only PR I've ever gotten from a major brand other than Flower Beauty, which happened recently, but I was so excited when they contacted me asking me if they could send me some stuff. So this has some sentimental value to me. And in addition to that, I do think Persona has one of the best eyeshadow formulas out there. Next to like Sydney Grace, this is one of my top formula recommendations. I think they're fantastic. All right, let's move into my Huda palettes. I'm gonna try and go through these really quick. I'm gonna keep all of the plastic packaged ones. So I have the nude light right here. There's 2 other versions of this one that I have wanted to pick up. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. And then I have all 3 of the khaki, or no, the haze palettes. I love them all. I recommend these with caution to people because I think the formula in this is not her best, the shimmer formula, especially in this one right here. I know I've said this like 4 times, you guys, but I still love these palettes because I think the packaging is so beautiful. The colors are beautiful and they're just really fun to use. Like they're kind of more like collector edition palettes for me. As far as like her actual formula across the board being good, I like her shimmer formula in the original Obsessions palettes so much better. I think it's way better. I don't know what changed in those ones. They're just different. Let's see. I do want to try and get rid of maybe 1 or 2 of these. This is really, really tough though. Because I love these so much, but I know these are discontinued. I feel like I want to get rid of 1 of these 2. I'm definitely keeping the Mauve Obsessions. I think this is one of my favorites from her. I kind of want to keep the Smoky Obsessions, other than the fact that this black has shattered on me like 3 times. But man, this silver and that pink right there, and even that light taupe, this is a really good one too. I'm going to keep that one as well. So I want to get rid of 1. Which one? I'm going to get rid of the Coral Obsessions. This is a really fun summer palette. But I love, there's a couple shades in here I think are really unique, and I love, I don't know, I love that gold as well. So I'm gonna keep the Warm Brown Obsessions. I'm gonna pass along the Coral Obsessions. All right guys, the original Milani palette. So this is another one. I feel like I should get rid of 2 of these. I think the one that I'm going to pass along is probably, I'm keeping the Soft and Sultry. I still think this is one of their best. Actually, let me lay these all out open on the table for you guys so you can see them. I am leaning towards keeping these 2 and passing along these 2. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pass along the Most Loved Mattes, which I do think is great. If you guys have this one, don't toss it if you don't need to, or you don't have a collection that's ridiculous like this. They are fantastic, and I would totally keep these for much more than the 24 months that they recommend. That's just a number they put on there to scare you and make you buy more stuff from them. That's what I believe, and until my makeup starts growing mold, I will continue to believe that. So I'm gonna keep those 2, pass these 2 along. I just know someone's gonna really love these. These I probably could pass along. I'm gonna keep them simply for this shade right here. This is the shade Woodwinked, one of the best bronzes I own. It's so, so good, you guys. It's really nice, like shimmery, smoothing shimmery formula. It reminds me of the Persona formula, but the shade of this is like, it's like warm and cool at the same time. It's so pretty. It is old. I think I've had these shades for like 10 years, but I'm gonna keep them because they have some sentimental value to me. These right here, these are all from Flower Beauty. These are newer. These are new quads from them. I used these in a recent video where I tried some new stuff out from Flower Beauty. And I kind of feel like I was a little harsh on these. I have been using these more since that video, and I actually really like them. This shimmer formula I actually find works better with a brush than with a finger, which I've never found to be true with any other shimmer formula I've ever tried. But I feel like it looks a little bit more flattering and wears better when you apply it with a brush. This one is in the shade In Bloom, just some really pretty like lid shimmers. If you like shimmers for the lid, this is a really good one. I actually like this one in combination with some of the other ones because some of these shimmers are lighter than like, where's this palette right here, which I do think is really pretty if you like cool tones. The shimmers aren't very light though, so I love combining these 2 together. This one is in the version Black Iris. Really pretty. You've got these 2 shades that are kind of satiny mattes, and then these 2 that are shimmers. This is more of a satiny shimmer, that's more of a reflective shimmer. Really, really pretty though. Just swatch a couple of these for you guys. I don't know, does my autofocus work? New camera, I guess we'll find out. Then these 2 right here, I've got the Gilded Lily version. This is really good if you like browns, like warm browns. This is beautiful. Kind of rose gold pinks. This one is great. And it is Barrymore, which, how cute is that? Get it? Barrymore, Drew Barrymore. Didn't have to explain that, Mandy. I'm pretty sure they got it. All right, guys, we are getting closer. Let's move on to these right here. These are some singles from Coastal Scents. I used to have a lot more of them than I do now. I kind of got rid of some of the ones that it's not even that I didn't like them. I have so many of these and I rarely use them. I think they're a good option if you're on a budget and you like collecting singles. I'm not gonna go through them in detail right now. I'll just kind of show you guys in general kind of what I have. Some like cooler greens. These are kind of some khaki greens and browns. Got a couple more here, some more neutrals. And then these ones right here are kind of like more berry tones and soft neutral pinks. So I'm gonna keep those for now. I think they're a good one to have and recommend. The last handful that we have, there probably won't be many that I'm getting rid of. Let's just go through them quickly. Persona, I've got the original Identity palette. I'm keeping that one. I still use that one quite often. And the Persona Identity too. This is really pretty. I'm very hopeful that Persona will come out with a third palette this year. Their formula is one of the best out there. I actually think, so this is the original one. I think the packaging of this one now looks similar to this one. It's a little bit more pricey than it was, but this packaging is really, really nice, especially if you travel. The hinge actually kind of, like you can use the mirror and like adjust it to the angle you need it to be. It's really large, really nice, really good packaging. I've got this right here from Nabla, the side-by-side palette. This is another palette I feel like I'm still getting to know. I think the formula is really great. Very interested to pick up possibly another palette or two from them this year. We'll see. So this right here, Sydney Gray's palette, you guys know. Best palette of the year. This was the queen of 2020. I am so in love with this palette. This will be buried with me. That was a little dark, but I'm serious. This one right here, the Reina del Caribe palette from Alamar Cosmetics. I don't think this one's available anymore unless you can find it like on some off-brand Mercari or something. I love this palette. I'm still gonna keep it because I love it. It has some of my favorite shades in there. This one right here, this is one that I'm on the fence about. Oh gosh, guys, this is the Dose of Colors Friendcation palette. One of the biggest reasons I'm considering getting rid of this one is because my mirror cracked. I know that's pathetic. I'm on the fence. I feel like I have a sister that might really love this one. I'm gonna go ahead and pass this one along. All right, let's go through my Anastasia palettes. I don't know that I can bring myself to get rid of any of these. I'm definitely keeping my Sultry palette, definitely keeping my Soft Brown palette. I do really like the Carly Bible palette. It's not my favorite, but I do really like it, so I'm gonna keep that one. You know, the Jackie Aina is like my favorite. The only one I would consider getting rid of is the Riviera, but I don't have a lot of colorful palettes. And there are some shades in here that, especially these blues, they're just so unique and beautiful that I don't really want to get rid of them because I don't feel like these can be replicated anywhere in my collection. Okay, you guys, before we go to the Lorac palettes, I found a couple more little palettes floating around. This right here, I tried this out from Yes Style. This was like 10 bucks, which is crazy to me that I spent $10 on this tiny little, but it's Anne of Green Gables. Guys, I'm a big Anne of Green Gables fan. So I'm gonna keep this one for the same reason that I kept the Harry Potter palette. These Nabla glitters. Glitters have been growing on me over the last like 2 months. So I'm gonna keep these around a little bit longer and try and use them a little bit more. I don't know that I will like these as much as I like some of my more refined Colourpop ones or the Tarte ones or the ones in the BH Cosmetics palette. Collab palettes, these are really good. The formula is great. I think they're a little pricey for what you get. I think they're like $15 unless you can find them on sale at Sally Beauty Supply. I'm gonna pass these along. I feel like they're really good. If you're asking my opinion on are these a good quality shadow, absolutely. They're really good quality. I would say they're even high-end quality, but I would also say Wet n Wild is almost high-end quality. These are better packaging than Wet n Wild for sure. I just don't use them very much, and I just feel like someone else will get more use out of these than I do. And I think someone will really be happy to have these because they are really good palettes that I just don't use. So I'm keeping the Lorac palettes. I talked about these in my ranking video from the year. They're relatively new to me. I know they're not new palettes to the market. I think they're great if you have fair skin. I'm telling you guys, this palette would be your best friend. This one right here, the version 3. I like them a lot. I need to do a video for you guys. I know a lot of you have requested for me to use at least one of these in a video, so that is on my radar. I do plan to do that. Also, before last thing is my Sydney Grace singles. I know I've talked these things to death this year, but for very good reason. They're so good. So here are all the singles that I have from Sydney Grace, all of these, and then I have 2 little 12 pan holders that aren't quite full yet. Pretty much everything. These are kind of all my neutral shimmers, or my lighter shimmers and lighter mattes in this one right here. These are all my greens and blues right here. So pretty. This one is filled with some of my deeper mattes and some of my kind of gold shimmers in here, like bronzes or golds. That's Bronze to Perfection, which is one of my very favorite shades from them. I feel the same way about this shade as I do about Woodwinked, which, by the way, I have Woodwinked right here on the back of my hand. I know these won't, actually, yeah, Bronze to Perfection is a little bit warmer even than Woodwinked, but man, I love them both. These in here are all of my silvery pewter or like taupe shades, and then green, kind of khaki muted greens. And then these are just some random ones that I threw in here, some deeper mattes, some like pink lid shades. That would be the prize of my entire eyeshadow palette collection right here. All right guys, I'm gonna get these all cleaned up into the bin, and I will kind of show you and go over what we ended up with number wise. All right, so here is everything. These 2 bins I'm keeping. I know, it's a lot. This is what I am decluttering. So my final numbers are 113 keeps, 28 that I will be passing along, which I did the math, and that's 20%. I feel like that's decent. I knew this was not gonna be massively huge today. I really was just looking to get rid of stuff that I need to pass along and just clear up a little bit of room. So I think that was good. So let's take these down to my shelf, get them put away, and see if things look a little bit better. Alrighty, so here we have it. Here is my smaller bin. This is pretty empty. It's actually kind of hard to stack things in here when it is so empty. I mean, this whole side right here is pretty loose, so I have a little bit of room to grow. And then down here at the bottom, here I have everything else. Much better. And that is it, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this eyeshadow palette collection, declutter, whatever you want to call this video. I am very happy with how things turned out. I have a lot more space, feels a lot more organized, and I'm excited to find a loving home for some of these palettes. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I want to remind you one more time, if you have not yet subscribed, please be sure to do that before you leave, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.